Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
For, well, basically all of human history, we've asked ourselves one huge question. Is this world actually real? But what's wild is that today, that question isn't just for philosophers anymore. Some of the world's top physicists are asking the exact same thing. And, their answers might just change everything you think you know about, well, everything.
So let's just ask it straight up. Is everything you see, everything you touch, everything you feel real? Or is there maybe another, more real reality just kind of hiding behind the curtain? Like I said, this question has officially left the philosophy classroom and walked right into the physics lab.
And get this. There's this idea, the simulation hypothesis, which people like Elon Musk talk about all the time. It argues that there's a pretty overwhelming probability, some say as high as 99%, that we're all living inside a super advanced computer simulation. And this isn't just a wacky sci-fi plot. It's a conclusion that comes from some seriously logical arguments that are getting, frankly, harder and harder to just brush aside.
And maybe, just maybe, we all kind of feel this glitch in the system on some level, don't we? You know that weird, soul-crushing exhaustion we call burnout? Or those hours we lose just scrolling through feeds, getting these little dopamine hits that don't actually bring any real joy? What if these aren't just errors in our modern lives? What if they're signals? Little hints that maybe we're looking for meaning in the completely wrong place? What if all our stress is just us mistaking the tutorial level for the final boss?
So if we're feeling this modern confusion, where do we even start to look for an answer? Well, maybe the answer isn't in the future. Maybe it's in the past. Let's take a look at an ancient framework, a kind of code given to us over 1,400 years ago that gives us a totally different way of looking at all this. So the Quran describes this life we're living, but not as fake. That's a really key point. It calls it a diversion and amusement. And then it says the true life, the full, high-def, real life, is something else entirely. So it's drawing this really clear line between the reality we're experiencing right now and a much, much higher one. So again, this idea isn't that the world is an illusion. No, it's that its resolution is just lower. Let me give you an analogy you'll get right away. Think of our world, the dunya, like a 480p video you're trying to stream on bad Wi-Fi. It's real, you can see it, but it's pixelated, it lags, it buffers. Now, the hereafter, the akhirah, that's the same content, but in glorious 8K HDR. It's uncompressed reality. The story's the same, but the quality, it's not even a comparison. And what's really fascinating is that the very word for world in Arabic, dunya, comes from a root that means lower, nearer, and temporary. So the idea that this is a lesser, temporary version of reality is literally baked right into the language itself. It's a stop along the way, not the final destination. Okay, so let's take this whole concept one step deeper, all right? We're going to peel back another layer and venture into the world of Sufi metaphysics. So, a core concept here is something called Wahdat al-Wujud, or the unity of existence. Now, thinkers like the great Ibn Arabi explained it like this. There's only one true, absolute existence, and that's God. Everything else, you, me, the stars, the planets, doesn't have its own independent existence. It borrows its existence from that single ultimate source. And Ibn Arabi just perfectly distilled this idea into one of the most powerful statements you'll ever hear. People are asleep. When they die, they will awaken. So he's telling us flat out that our current state of consciousness is basically a dream. The real awakening, well, that comes later. The Sufis had this absolutely brilliant analogy for this. They said the world is a shadow. Now think about that. A shadow is real, right? You can see it, but it has zero independent existence. It is 100% dependent on two things, an object and a source of light. Take away the light, and the shadow's gone. In the exact same way, they argue, nothing in this universe exists on its own. It's all being constantly sustained by a higher reality. Okay, so let's bring this whole story back to right now, because this is where things got really, really wild. This is where we see modern science unexpectedly echoing these 1,000-year-old spiritual insights. It's like ancient wisdom and modern discovery are shaking hands. In theoretical physics, there's this mind-bending theory called the holographic principle. Now, to put it simply, it suggests that our entire three-dimensional reality might just be a projection of information that's stored on a distant two-dimensional surface, kind of like a hologram. Now, does that sound familiar? A 3D projection from a 2D source? It sounds an awful lot like a shadow of a higher reality, doesn't it? And it gets even stranger when you look at what we call matter. The chair you're sitting on, your desk, your own hand, they all feel solid, right? Well, do you know how much of any given atom is just empty space? It's 99.999%. What we perceive as solid is almost entirely nothing. The feeling of solidity is an illusion created by energy fields. It's not solid stuff, it's a dance of information and energy. So if reality isn't a collection of solid things, what is it? Well, this brings us to another really powerful idea. This verse from the Quran suggests that reality wasn't just created once, like a sculptor finishing a statue, and then left to run on its own. It's being continuously and actively renewed, moment by moment by moment. So think of it this way. The universe isn't a pre-recorded movie that's just playing out. It's being live streamed. Existence is constantly being refreshed, frame by frame. And if that divine command, that stream of existence were to pause for even a microsecond, poof, everything would just vanish. All right, I know this is a lot, it's pretty profound stuff, but the big question is, so what? What does this actually mean for you and me and our daily lives? How can we use this knowledge? Let's get practical and move from theory to practice. Here is a simple 3-step protocol you can start using today. First up, the perspective hack. When you're stressed or worried, mentally zoom out. Zoom out from yourself to your street, your city, your country, the planet, the galaxy. Watch how fast your problem shrinks. Second, the reality mantra. Repeat the phrase, La ilaha illallah. This isn't just a religious slogan, it's a statement about reality itself. There is no true reality except the one ultimate reality. And third, the simulator test. When something bad happens, try to see it not as a random pixel of suffering, but as a test or a challenge from the programmer, specifically designed for your growth. Now, when you start living with this perspective, you start to achieve a state they call zuhud. And it's really important to understand what this is. Zuhud doesn't mean you have to renounce the world and go live in a cave. Not at all. It just means removing the world's grip from your heart. You can have things, but they don't have you. And there's this beautiful teaching from the Prophet Muhammad that just captures the whole vibe perfectly. He advises to be in this world as if we were a stranger or a traveler. Just someone stopping for a quick rest in the shade of a tree before continuing on the real journey. This isn't our permanent home. We're just passing through. So where does all this leave us? Let's just wrap it up. Modern physics is starting to suggest our reality is basically projected information. The Quran calls this world a temporary game, a diversion. Sufism calls it a dependent shadow. You see? We've got 3 totally different paths, all arriving at the exact same stunning conclusion. What we see and experience on the surface is not the ultimate source. The map is not the territory. So the next time the pressure of this world feels like it's just too much, I want you to remember that 480p stream. Remember the shadow. Remember that what you're seeing is just one layer of the whole picture. And then, maybe, ask yourself the really big question. Who or what is controlling the universe's refresh rate?